start the meeting because we don't have a chairman or a vice chairman at the moment.
Absolutely. Are we live? Okay, I'll make a start. I'm David Northover. I'm clerk to the Dorchester Markets panel. You'll see the first item on the agenda is election of chairman. Can I have nominations for a chairman, please?
Proposed Councillor Molly Rennie.
Thank you, Councillor Haynes. Is there a seconder?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor
Somper.
Hosford. Thank you. Any other nominations? Now I declare Councillor Rennie is chairman of this panel for the ensuing year.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your confidence in me. Now we have election and appointment of vice chairman. I'd like to nominate Councillor Jill Haynes. Like to have somebody to second?
I'll second that,
Thank you.
Councillor Rennie.
Thank you, Councillor Dunseith.
Do we have any other nominations? Thank you. So, Jill, again.
Molly.
At this moment in time, what people the two people I wanted to thank, and I'd like it to go on record, please, are two of the town council members who stood down, which is Councillor Chisholm and Councillor Potter. I'd like their thanks to be noted in the minutes to them, and David has sent them a letter saying thank you for their service to the market panel. And I'd like to welcome Councillor Stella Jones to the markets panel. Stella, were you a member previously?
Sorry, no, I've never been a member of the committee, but I was involved back in 1973 when the old Dorchester Borough Council were trying to keep the market away from West Dorset, and it took years and years of sorting it out. And I still think they made the wrong mistake, West Dorset taking over. Anyway, I'm back. I've been following it ever since 1973.
There are you by any chance?
Sorry?
You're not bitter. You're not saying anything bitter.
No, I just know that the market would have been better run by Dorchester Town Council all these years.
Thank you very much. And also Councillor Francis Hogg, who doesn't seem to be here yet.
No.
Maybe he's having an issue getting in. Don't know.
There's no indication, Chairman. He would have received the same.
She, the lady.
My apologies.
It's all right.
She would have received the same invitation as everyone else. So we'll wait and see, I think.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, and apologies. We've had from Councillor Hewitt and Councillor Worth.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. You may or may not want to turn your cameras off. We could end up losing bandwidth, especially for people who are in difficult places. Any questions? I'd like it if you could please put RTS, right to speak, in the chat bar, and I will acknowledge that I've seen you and you want to speak. So thanks very much. Okay. Item 4, minutes of the previous meeting. Is there any, first of all, over accuracy, David, can I bring something up on page 8, which is to do with the car boot panel? And in it, we'd said, and I think the town clerk can confirm this, it said historically it's been 2 members from both authorities, these being the chairman stroke mayor and the vice chairman stroke deputy mayor. And actually the mayor plays no part in this panel. It's the chairman and the vice chairman. And so I think it perhaps just was an assumption, David. So I think we just need to correct that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you very much. Does anybody want to bring anything up that's in the minutes. I'm
happy to propose them.
Councillor Jones.
Yeah, obviously I wasn't at the last meeting, but there seemed to have been, it's 6 months ago, and there seemed to have been a lot of actions which should have minuted to take place. Can you report on things that are minuted as having going to be done in the near future, like having a working party about the future of the place, talking about the Linneys and all the things that you discussed?
You'd like?
Or does that come up later on in the private meeting?
Yes. That will come up later. But are you requesting that you see the outcome of the actions?
Yes, it would be helpful, as I wasn't there at the meeting.
Okay, I understand. David, perhaps that's something. But of course, the issue will be sometimes these minutes are written as a record of the meeting, and the actions often are not taken up till maybe a couple of months later.
Yeah, but this is 6 months ago, so that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, but the minutes were written a while ago.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
anything you'd like to ask about, now you can actually ask about it.
Well, yeah, I'm really asking, has this working party been set up? Have we had a report on what's going to happen to the Linneys? All the things that were mentioned in those minutes.
Right, those things, Stella, that you mentioned, they are all going to come up in a private meeting that we'll have after this, because we're going to discuss.
Right, I did wonder if that was the case, yeah. Right, thank you.
Okay, Jill.
Sorry, just before, I see we're joined by Councillor Hogwood.
Yeah, I'm just going to let Jill say what she's going to say.
Yeah, thank you, Molly. I was just going to confirm that the reason we have the delay is because we needed to get the information before we could have the next meeting, and we needed to have the officers go and talk to other people so that we could have the information, and that's what we're going to discuss in the next meeting, I believe.
And you'll have a full report about that. Frances is here. I'd like to welcome Frances Hogwood, councillor from the Dorchester Town Council. Nice to see you, Frances.
Thank you.
Frances, the meeting is being recorded.
Yeah.
You are aware. If you wish to speak about anything, I'd like it if you could put RTS, right to speak, in the chat bar. And I will acknowledge, so you know that we've seen you and you'll have the opportunity to speak. It'd be great if you could turn your camera off during the meeting.
Ooh.
Because it takes bandwidth. We've got lots of people who live in rural areas and
Yes.
have an issue. Okay, I'm going to move to declarations of interest. Does anybody have anything they need to declare at this point? No. Okay. Public participation. We've got no questions and no statements at all within this meeting. Now, within the meeting at the moment, for those of you who are not Dorset Council, I'm just going to read a statement out because, of course, the government did not extend the right to make decisions at meetings. So I'm just going to read this statement out. At the annual meeting of council on the 4th of May, it was agreed that all council May 2001, sorry. It was agreed that all council meetings that are not executive in nature will continue to be held virtually from the 7th of May until such time as social distancing requirements are removed. Currently, that will be maybe the 19th of July, fingers crossed for everybody. Where a decision is required, committee members or panel members in this case will express a minded to decision in respect of a recommendation set out within the reports, with decisions being taken under officer delegated authority in the light of minded to decisions expressed by members in the virtual meetings. And the officer who is going to take those decisions for us to the right place is Karen Punchard, who's nicely there. And then Karen will take those forward to us to whichever relevant committee they've got to go, and then they can be enacted on. Okay. Is there any questions, especially from any town council members about that? This does not mean we can't make a recommendation or a minded to recommendation, and it doesn't mean that we can't fully discuss anything. Karen hears the discussion, and then if there is a discussion needed, she can report on what was said. And of course, the meetings are recorded, so nobody can change anybody's thoughts process and what's being said in the meeting. Thank you very much. Item 7, financial outturn report. It's on page 33. Who's Kevin, you're going to present that.
Yep, thank you, Chair. I can update on that one. So yeah, I'm just going to talk you through the financial outturn report from the 2021 financial year. The purpose of this report will be for hopefully to get a couple of recommendations that the members of the panel can approve the income and expenditure statement for 2020-21. There's an appendix 1 to this report, which is a spreadsheet version of the income and expenditure statement. And another recommendation that the Head of Community and Public Protection in Dorset Council, in consultation with the Town Clerk at Dorchester Town Council and with the support of the relevant property and finance divisions at Dorset Council, can be authorised to agree a reduced fee for the Cornhill Market operators income for 2021 and 21-22. So I'll just talk you through the key points of this report in conjunction with the relevant appendix 1. So for the background context, the budget for 2020/21 that was agreed by the panel at a meeting on the 29th of January 2020. So it's just important to set a bit of context and realise this budget was set in a sort of pre-COVID-19 world. So none of the budgeted assumptions take into account obviously the clear impact that we've had throughout the last year. So the expenditure budget was set at 41,958 with a net income budget of 165,198. So that left a net budget surplus of £123,240 as the budget available for distribution in 2021. So on the actual outturn that we saw during the 2021 year, we incurred expenditure totaling £40,654. So that was against a budget of 41,958, giving us a minor underspend of £1,304. That was the reason we were in an underspend position, is mainly due to an insurance rebate we had of just under £2,000 in relation to wall damage, and there was lower than budgeted costs against the market toilets budget. It's just worth noting, included in the 41,958 total expenditure figure, we had a budget line for repairs and maintenance, which we term R&M, of 19,600. This line was reported with a nil variance on the outturn, but it's worth noting that actual expenditure incurred on the R&M budget was £15,011. The balance between the actual and the budget was £4,589, and that sort of element was transferred into the market maintenance earmarked reserve at year end. So effectively, from an accounting perspective, that budget line had a nil variance because the reserve movement topped up the actual spend. The total income accounted for during 2021 was 87,303 against a budget of 165,198. So there was clearly a significant income deficit of £77,895. The main underlying reason for this shortfall this is a fairly clear one, is the effect of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in particular the effects of the numerous lockdowns and restrictions imposed during the financial year. The total deficit also includes a bad debt provision of £4,800, which was in relation to the unpaid farmers market licence fees from 2018-19 and 2019-20. Within the overall shortfall of 77,895, there was a shortfall of 39,672, which was related to the market operators contract, that's the ENSA's contract. Income from both the market and the Sunday car boot was severely suppressed during the year, in particular to periods around spring 2020 and January to March 2021 period, when we had nationally imposed restrictions due to the COVID pandemic, which prevented a normal operation for market activities. Also, during last year, there was a 50% reduction in the budgeted income contribution of 47,824 in relation to Fairfield car park income. Again, that was just due to the effects of the COVID pandemic suppressing the market activities. At present, there is a significant outstanding debt relating to the Cornhill market. There has been preliminary discussions with operators, and it's been established that the operator was unable to operate the market for the significant periods of 2021, and that much of that debt will therefore be highly unlikely to be recoverable, should I say, sorry. The operator has also highlighted that there is significant risk that they will not be able to make payments during the current year, 2021-22, due to the impact of the pandemic on local retail and footfall. The market did not qualify for support under the government's various grant packages, and a recommendation is included that a reduced fee is negotiated with the operator relating to the previous year, 2021, fee that is still outstanding, and obviously going forward, it would be prudent to assume no further income from this source until these negotiations have been concluded. So that left us with a final net surplus for distribution in 2021 of 46,649 against a budget of 123,240, a shortfall of 76,591. The distribution of this is as follows. So there was 5,095 going into the Sunday car boot reserve against a budget of 18,900. So that's a significant reduction in the amount that's gone to top up that reserve to be available for the community grant awards. There was £27,010 to Dorset Council against a budget of 67,821, and 14,544 to Dorchester Town Council against a budget of 36,519. So just to clarify the final reserve balances. So as mentioned, I touched on the market maintenance earmarked reserve earlier. That had an opening balance of 23,065, and then we had the unspent R&M budget of 4,589 to give us a closing balance on that reserve going forward of 27,654. There was no withdrawals or spend against that reserve throughout last year, so the only movement was the in-year top-up of 4,589. The Sunday car boot earmarked reserve, that's had a net decrease. There was an opening balance brought forward on that one of £20,974. The top up in year as a result of the car boot income was £5,095, but there was an in-year drawdown in advance on that reserve of £10,444 to fund the grant awards during 2021. So that leaves us with a balance going forward of 15,625 on that reserve. And that's the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions? No? That's. But Adrian, do you wish to speak about the recommendation at this point about the South Street market?
Only to ask members to support that recommendation, Chairman. It's a pragmatic solution. realistically, we're not going to see all of that money. So we might as well accept that and just look to try and deal sensitively with that subject.
I can see Councillor Hayes has put, is what it is. I think we're lucky that we've got any income whatsoever during this time. There is one minded to recommendation I would like to make, considering we only have 15,600 in the car boot reserves. I would like to recommend that the panel consider holding that over till next year. At this moment in time, any organisations won't have thought about what they want to do in the year ahead, won't have made any plans to do anything in the year ahead, and also we may be actually trying to give money to people who haven't really got an opportunity to be sure that they can actually spend the money during the year. So that's what I would like to make a recommendation. I've got an RTS, but I don't know who it's from because it's not attached to a name.
To me.
Is it you, Jill? Oh, yes. I now see, because it's got a line underneath it on my screen. Jill.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to second that proposal. I think it's only sensible at this stage that that we hold this over to see where we're going to go with it. To be distributing such a little amount like that to possibly organisations that may not survive, if you know what I mean. We just need to be sure that we're giving the money out appropriately, and I think it would be better to wait.
Thank you. Does everybody else agree? You can just say yes or no.
Agreed.
Yes, very sensible.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah.
And I think we should do a press release to that end, Jill, as well, separate to anything the press might report from the minutes that they pick up in the market, in the past minutes.
I think so. I think that that's only right that we just set out why. The limited amount of money, much smaller than we would normally have because of COVID, will still be carried forward, but we'll be looking to distribute next year.
Also, as well, I just wanted members to be aware, we still are in discussions about Fairfield car parking fees for a Sunday, and we haven't got a final outcome on that as well. Adrian, could you explain for the two new members, more importantly, why the car parking fee, where that fits into the 1/3 and 2/3, basically?
Yes, Chair, but a number of years ago, Fairfield Market, the Fairfield site is leased to the Markets panel, who enjoy all of the income from the market on a Wednesday, and that includes all of the parking income that's generated on a Wednesday, and historically all of the car parking income that was generated on a Sunday. Now, about 10 years ago, we actually stopped charging for parking on a Sunday, and that's obviously been recently reinstated. The actual contribution made from car parking was never varied during that period, and therefore it'd been reasonable now to expect to see it rise. However, there's an argument still going on effectively between the panel and the Dorset Council regarding what the appropriate fees are to be charged on a Sunday, and the panel's contention would be that the fees are related to the activity as a market on a Sunday, not as a car park on a Sunday. That's still outstanding as an issue that's got to be resolved, Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you as well for the members who didn't quite understand that. So we've got a recommendation that proposed and seconded that we hold over the car boot funding till next year, and also that we agree to discussions with the Cornhill market traders as regarding an appropriate fee. Everybody happy with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you.
Yes, happy with that, Molly.
Yes,
Yeah.
Thank you
happy.
very much. Karen, you wish to speak?
Yeah, thank you. For me to agree the decision, I think we'll need to have a form of words agreed if you want to add to the recommendation in the formal printed agenda. So if you're able, Chair, to propose a form of words to David, and David can record those so that it's clear, first of all, what it is the panel is minded to approve, and secondly, so that I can then make that decision on the printed recommendations and the additional ones that you've just outlined.
And do you want me to do that now or with David?
Well, we need to make the decision now.
Okay, David, can you help me out at this
Yes,
stage?
I'll do my very best. Well, effectively, that the car boot funding is held over until 2022-23 to be distributed at that time.
Mhm.
In the interests of the best use of that money.
Yes. For charities within the 6 2/3 market area of Dorchester Market. So I think we need to add that into it. So we've got that part, and then we need to increase the wording around to approve the accounts with the opportunity for the town clerk and whoever it was, and I don't know who else is going to discuss this with Grant and the team at Cornhill, but it's the town clerk. And who is going with you, Adrian, to do that?
Yeah, hello, Chairman. It's Graham Duggan. It'll be me, Chairman, who accompanies Adrian to discuss the fees.
Right, so with Graham Duggan and Adrian Stewart to have a discussion with the Cornhill Market Traders Group regarding the fee to be paid. And then that could come back, if needs be, to the chair and the vice chair. Jill, are you happy with that?
Absolutely, Molly. I think all of this is quite fluid at the moment, isn't it? You know, and we just have to see what we can do to support the traders as we're going forward. There's one thing I would like to say to members of the committee, of course, for those local charities that might have been hoping to have some of that money. The funding is open at the moment with Dorset Council to support local groups and charities to reopen again after COVID. So I would, if they get any queries from anybody locally who was hoping to have some of that money, I would ask you to urge them to look up and get themselves applied to that grant funding that's out there. It's not massive, but it's up to £2,000 per charity. I think that's useful to know.
Thank you. Karen, are you happy now? Does that?
I am, Chair, so if you're happy for me to read out the recommendation and the minded to, reflecting the minded to decision of the panel and the discussion that I've heard here today. I am happy to recommend that the Head of Community and Public Protection, Dorset Council, in consultation with the Town Clerk, Dorchester Town Council, and with support from Property and Finance Divisions of Dorset Council, be authorised to agree a reduced fee for the years 2020-21 and 2021-22 with the operators of the Cornhill Market. Secondly, that members of the panel approve the income and expenditure statement for 2020-21. And thirdly, now David might have to correct the wording here, that the car boot funding be held over to 2022-23 to be distributed at that time in the interests of the best use of that money.
And
Could
Chairman,
I add, for the best interests of that money for the charities that, because they, for the charitable work, something like that. Because we have to make sure it's distributed to the charities that make an application. And at the moment, it's a bit ambiguous that it could go.
For the best use of that money for the charities concerned.
Yes, that's good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is everyone happy with that wording? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
I'm sorry, it seems very clunky to everybody that we have to do it this way, but as Jill says, it is what it is.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. That charity that Jill mentioned, and the fact that money can go out, just so as you're aware, the Dorchester Town Councillors all have that given to them as well. So they are aware of that, and perhaps we can just remind them again, Adrian, the weekly roundup. And David, perhaps it's something we could send again, a reminder to councillors who are in the area who can make an application as well, just to remind everybody. Thank you. So we've done the finance, and we now come to the confidential business of the meeting. David, you haven't.
well, I was just going to say, not quite yet, because there is still in this open session an opportunity to discuss some market operations. Now, we've put that on the agenda because there may be things that Graham or Adrian or other officers might wish to bring to the attention of everyone, panel and public alike, of certain things that have happened as far as we can, and then we'll go to the confidential session.
Thank you for correcting me. I'd sort of slipped away from that. Graham and Adrian, is there anything that you feel that you can talk to us about within the open session, or is there any questions that members may have?
Thank you, Chairman. Just to say that Grant from Cornhill Markets was looking to come along to the meeting this afternoon, but he is also working on the market, so it was going to be a little hit and miss. He did produce an email earlier this week in which the theme of which was that it had been very difficult over the past year in Cornhill, obviously with the COVID-19 restrictions. But both he and his partner in the business were looking forward and had a good anticipation of market traders coming back as restrictions get lifted. And both Adrian and I met with him a few weeks ago, and I think it's fair to say both of us were impressed with the optimism being shown for Cornhill. I think probably Grant would have wanted me to pass that on to the markets panel this afternoon.
Thank you. Adrian,
Nothing from me, Chairman.
I understand as well Grant's doing some deals to encourage people to come back, or for some new traders to come to that market as well. So I think we have to applaud his enthusiasm for that Cornhill market and his encouragement to people. Has any member of the panel got any questions they would like to ask? Yes, I've got Councillor Stella Jones.
Yeah, we've heard recently that there could possibly be another market set up in Dorchester. I think we ought to make sure that people are aware that markets cannot be set up without the permission of this panel.
Markets can be set up on any day except for a Wednesday or a Sunday. And if they have a rival market on either of those days, they have to pay a license fee to have that market. Kevin or Graham, is anybody able to say what the license fee is for a rival market?
Chairman, you asked me to research this a couple of days ago, and I haven't found the answer yet. It's
I think as well,
I think
maybe, yeah.
it's hidden away in a document of age, I think, but I will find it, and I will circulate that information around to yourself and the panel members.
Thank you very much. I think as well it could be around, depending on what the market is and how many people are coming and how much damage we think it's going to do as well, maybe. Don't know. Stella, have you heard about anything in particular you want to question?
No, I just that I think we ought to make sure that people are aware that Dorchester Market is so important that we don't want rival markets taking place at the same time.
Adrian.
Chairman, can I just emphasise what you said to Councillor Jones? We don't have a right to control markets.
No.
We only have a right to charge a rival market licence, and I'll touch on that again when we get into the private session, because that's part of the problem that we need to recognise.
And I think also for members of the panel, if you hear of or see anything about a rival market being advertised or proposed, you let Graham or Adrian know, and they can then set Kevin or somebody else in finance onto making sure that they pay the rival market fee. And that in itself, because a lot of people don't even realise that they've got to do that.
Residential home.
That's why I raised it, because I think people didn't realise.
Yeah. And we don't all know and we don't all see when something's happening. You know, if you see something advertised in the Echo or an article about it, you can actually do something about it. But we don't have people sitting and reading and looking for all this sort of thing like we used to do. Can anybody remember UG Barnes? He used to scour the Echo looking to see who was advertising a car boot sale or something. Anybody else got any questions? No, thank you. We'll move into the confidential business, but that will mean you need to go out of this meeting and go back into your second invitation. Can I thank everybody who has been here to help and guide the panel in the first part of the meeting, and thanks very much indeed for your attendance.
Thank you. Just before we leave, just to be clear, this meeting will now close, this public meeting, and there is an invitation to you to take part in the workshop session following this. That would purely just be a Teams meeting, no outside broadcasting. We might, Chairman, what's it now, 20 to 3, maybe start it at 2:45, give people time to absolutely get out and get back in, yes?
Yeah.
Okay,
thank you. I see Jane's already started it, so that's good.
Yes, that's.
Thank you.